is Leo Neugebauer in third. Those are the top 8, and they will come back and do 5 more events tomorrow. Should be a great finish as we get ready now for our final on the track. The men's 10,000 meters. There was the championship record and the collegiate record. And there is Adrian Wildschut, the collegiate leader this year in 27:38:54. 24 athletes, 12 qualifying from the East Regional, 12 qualifying here from the West Regional. And it is a final. Those 2 groups will stay in those packs through this first turn and then break for the pole on the backstretch. "25 laps of this 400-meter oval," and Laura Overton back with us to help with the commentary. And this is a distance that is appreciated by most of the people in this distance-oriented crowd here in Eugene.
Dwight, this is a field where you have a lot of guys who are going to be up front mixing it up. There are 4 athletes in this field who have produced sub-28-minute times so far this season. You mentioned Adrian Wildschut of Florida State, also the Stanford tandem of Charles Hicks and Cole Sprout. Charles Hicks having run 27:40, Cole Sprout 27:42, and then Harvard's Matthew Pereira 27:45. Those were from that Peyton Jordan Invitational at Stanford. And you expect those Stanford guys to use the type of pack mentality that they did in that type of performance, but a lot of eyes going to be on Abdi Nur of Northern Arizona.
Well, and Abdi Nur, Northern Arizona, he swept the indoor titles, 3,000 meters, 5,000 meters, and it really looked like he did it easily. He didn't get challenged much at all. But he comes into these championships, he's an outstanding 1,500-meter runner. He's an outstanding 5K guy. He could have run any distance race here, and he chose to just solely focus in on the 10,000 meters. And I talked to him the other day, and I said, well, what are you going to do with the U.S. Championships? He said he'll focus after the NCAA Championships here. He'll focus on the 5,000 meters at the U.S. Championships and try to make that World Championship team. But what on earth is Alex Mayer from Oklahoma State doing right now?
I believe that's Athanas Kyoko of Campbell, who's up there up front, and he is a bit of a wild card in this race. The Big South Championships, he won the 800, the 1,500, the 5K. He only ran 2 10Ks this season. One of those was a PR back in March, and then, of course, had to run the NCAA East prelim. But after the indoor season, he admitted he was really down. So he had to bring himself back after the disappointment of the NCAA indoor season. He finished 15th at the championships, the indoor meet. So 2 weeks later, PR'd in the 10K by over a minute, his 5th school record, and he admitted that is not even the best race that he could have run. But he said that's in life what we should treat ourselves with. You get down, you beat yourself up a little bit, but then you're able to lift yourself back out of it. He's 27 years old, having previously attended Caratina University, now competing at Campbell.
Well, we talked to Chris Bucknam and Dan Waters from Alabama and Arkansas today, and they mentioned that this cat could be a wild card. And they're just saying you got to trust the fact that even if he goes out hard, even if he does something phenomenal at the beginning, that the rest of the package, that he's going to come back to you. And it looks like everybody in this pack now just has that faith and believes they're going to just let him go and that he's going to come back to them later in the race.
He's been on the podium, though, at previous championships. 3rd at the 2021 cross-country championships, 3rd in the 5K at last year's outdoor championships, ran a personal best on the championship stage of 13:13.
Well, he's about, 60 meters, 65 meters ahead, and he's running 40 seconds faster than the collegiate record pace. And our crack statistician Tom Lewis says he might be going for a world championship qualifier for his country. That's 27:28 he would have to run, which is a fair improvement on his personal best of 28:16, but he might feel like these are great conditions. It's obviously an important meet, and I'm going to get out here and see how I feel for a few laps at this pace. And what the heck? He has an 80-meter lead at this point with 21 laps remaining for him. And then the pack of 23 they will soon have 21 laps remaining.
Yeah, Dwight, he's definitely doing something way out there in front of the rest of the group. I just kind of wonder what's going through his mind right now. Because when you're in this type of race and you do something special, you do something different than the rest of the group is, you're truly running by yourself. So, Laura, what do you think he's really thinking right about now?
I think he's putting it all out there. He's like, I'm just going to push the field to go with me. I'm going to take my chance. I'm going to go out here and gamble. He must feel really confident. He hasn't overly competed in the 10K. He had some great performances at shorter distance, so he's feeling great about not only where his fitness is, but where his strength and speed is as well.
Well, with a little more than 20 laps remaining, you can see what's happening here. It is Utanas Hiyoko of Campbell leading by close to 100 meters, and then a 23-man pack. So with just 20 laps remaining, we are going to step aside, and we will bring you more of this 10,000 meters, the only track final of the day, when we return to Hayward Field. Collegiate record pace. Well, he's no longer running under collegiate record pace, and he's right about where he needs to be to get a world championship qualifier. He needs to go 27:28 for that, and he's at about 27:30 pace, but he still has the better part of an 80-meter lead with 17 laps remaining, though he has slowed down noticeably. That means the pack really hasn't picked up noticeably. So we have 23 athletes in that pack, and one lone guy out there doing his own thing with about an 80-meter lead.
Well,
that pretty much sum it up?
That you absolutely did. Perfectly summed it up. And this is what we've come to expect from these 10,000-meter championships, because just last year, led by Tulsa's Patrick Devers, meet record 27:41, the top 10 finishers in last year's event were all under the previous meet record. And in talking with Alabama head coach Dan Waters earlier, he said that this field was better than the field we saw in 2021.
Well, and it's interesting because the guys in that second group, we'll call them,
the peloton.
Yeah, they're playing, they're playing strategy within that group. They're playing peekaboo, and they can't do that. A couple of guys have to figure it out and say, get up front and push that pace. You don't need those guys getting up front and slowing down that pace. Somebody in that second group has got to take.
Go get them. Somebody's got to make a decision to close this gap in a hurry, because the more laps that go by, the less opportunity they're going to have and the less track they're going to have to go catch it.
Well, Patrick Kiprop there with his Arkansas jersey on is in the leader of the chase pack. And he's right there. Adrian Wildschut, the senior from Florida State and South Africa, was right there next to him. Iman Kemboy is there. Abdihamid Noor is there. But, John, you're down there on the infield looking at this and got a better shot at looking what the guys in the pack look like. What are your observations?
Well, one, I would say, obviously, they're relaxed. Nobody seems concerned whether they think they're going to catch him or he's going to come back. But I was noting when you were talking about who's going to go get him, if you recall, a couple years ago at the National Cross Country meet, the championships there in Stillwater, Wesley Kiptoo went way out and got in front of everybody, and it was Wildschut who went up to Connor Mance and just said to him, I think if we work together, we can get him. And it was very odd. In the middle of the race, these two guys from different teams, right? Well, Florida State and a BYU kid, and they took turns running 1,000 meters, and they eventually tracked him down. And I'll be curious to see if somebody decides that if we all work together here, we can bring him back. But I say that because here's Wildschut coming through in second with his 15 laps to go, and he might be the guy that initiates how we reel him back in.
Well, the gap has closed ever so slightly, I would have to say. And Wildschut has gone out there on his own in front and is imploring the guys behind him to maybe pick it up a little bit. But let's face it, track is an individual sport, and there's 24 individuals out there. There are some team implications with Florida State, with Adrian Wildschut would like to score as many points as he can for the Seminoles because they got some firepower throughout the program. But so far, that's still a huge gap to try to make up as they come up with 14 laps remaining. And we will step aside, let this race run its course, and be back with more of it when we return to Eugene. Hundreds, albeit by just hundredths of a second, than he is, which I wasn't a physics major or anything, but you can't really close the gap unless you're running faster than the guy in front that you're trying to catch. He does look noticeably less fresh, I will say that. but more than half of the race run, and he ran right around 14 minutes for the 5,000 meters, which means now the World Championship qualifier is obviously out the window. So maybe he's just trying to steal the thing wire to wire. So far, the chase pack not taking the bait.
And you can see leading that chase pack, you have the duo from Arkansas, Patrick Kiprop and Amon Kimboy, and they are being very patient in leading that group. You also have Wildschut in there in contention, and then Charles Hicks of Stanford. So those guys have been incredibly patient over the course of this race. Abdi Nur well positioned there as well, back in about 6th position if they do start to reel in Athanas Kyoko. And the instruction from some of the coaches of the athletes in that chase pack was not to get carried away. If you do have someone who gets aggressive up front, it was to be incredibly poised and controlled. 6.2 miles on the oval is a long way to go, and you don't want to get caught up in running 61, 62s, even 64s. Those 67s are what you're going to run for right at 27-minute pace. And Dan Waters told us, Dan, that you can basically take your 5K, double it, and add a minute, and that would be what you could do for about 10,000 meters. So for Kyoko, he's run 13:13, so I did a little bit of quick math, so that would take him up to 27:26, so that would be the position right where he was aiming to run. You mentioned those target times that he has, so that's part of the reason he feels so confident in running as aggressively as he has been over the course of the race. And again, somebody's going to really have to start accelerating that chase pack, currently led by that Arkansas duo.
Well, the lead seems to be shrinking just a little bit, but not very noticeably. You got to watch it lap after lap. But Adrian Wilshut, he pushed the pace a little while. He stepped to the outside of lane 1. He wanted somebody else. It's like, hey, look, I'll take the lead for a couple laps. Let somebody else get in there. But nobody really wanted to get in there. So this is really interesting. But there you see Adrian from Florida State in the lead of that chase pack once again.
Well, I can tell you that the lead that he has gone from 14 seconds the first 5 laps to 11 seconds. So that is something. And we've seen a couple laps where there's a second and a half faster in the chase pack than the leader. But coming up with 9 laps remaining, he's still got a good lead, and we'll see what happens when we come back. McLeod, who is the only guy to beat Javon Harrison last year, ends up 4th. Back to the 10,000. And they have absorbed the leader for almost 20 laps, 19 laps. The senior Athanas Kyoko has now been absorbed into the peloton, and now the racing can begin in earnest. When they come down the finishing stretch and get to the start-finish line, they will have 5 laps remaining.
But they're sitting there and not passing him, not getting around him, allowing him to keep himself up there at the head of the race. You see Kiprop from Arkansas getting up there in the mix, and you see Adrian Wildschut in fantastic position. It's been an outstanding 2022 for Adrian Wildschut of Florida State. He competed at the World Indoor Championships for South Africa, finished 10th in the 3,000. He's run 13:09 indoors for 5K. He was also the NCAA runner-up in cross country. So he's one of those who is battle-tested and knows how to respond in these types of situations. But wow, with this point in the race, just under 5 laps to go, there are a lot of guys up there in the hunt who could win this championship, and perfectly positioned is, of course, Abdi Nur. And one of the things we were noticing, look at the blood on Charles Hicks's face. Caught some contact right there, bloody nose, bloody upper lip. Robert, that's the type of contact you might expect in football, not so much in the 10,000 meters. So interesting to see how that may have incurred. Could have been one of the taller athletes who has, that big, strong back sway of his upper body that possibly caught contact with Charles Hicks.
Yeah, Laura, Charles Hicks is saying, who said track and field isn't a contact sport?
You are reading my mind. That's exactly what I was going to say. Well, the 2/3 of the field is absolutely still in this race with 4 laps remaining. It is going to be a barn burner of a sprint the last 400 meters at least, if not from further out than that. There's plenty of runners in this pack who've got good finishing speed, and it's not like they have been setting the world on fire with pace. So this should get very interesting. I expect a lot of contact. There's a lot of good runners who are boxed right now. That's likely to change when things move faster, but they are still allowing Kyoko to stay in this race.
You know, guys, when I see Charles Hicks with that headband on, it just makes me think of dodgeball and him saying, "Nobody makes me bleed my own blood."
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Apparently can't dodge the elbow, though, of the rest of the competition. One guy who does not shy away from adversity or from a challenge is Abdi Nur of Northern Arizona. He was born in Somalia, left at a young age, lived in Cairo for a few years before then going to Phoenix in his high school career, started playing soccer. That's how he made friends, but then was in a near-fatal car accident that had him bedridden. He missed 3 months of school, so in order to try to get back into shape, to get back into soccer, which he loved so much and had found so many friends in doing, the coach encouraged him, hey, go and run cross country so that you can get a little bit stronger and build your fitness up. And now you're seeing a guy who has broken collegiate records this outdoor season and still just coming into his own as a distance runner. His coach, Mike Smith, says Abdi brings a lot of ownership and such a great attitude to the team. And you're seeing that mental toughness, that fortitude on display right here.
Adrian Piperi of Texas, 6th and final attempt. He's already got the wind. Absolutely, 10 points for Texas, going for a big throw. He had a big throw in round 5, but he fouled it. And we'll wait for the measurement, but he is your NCAA champion. Best throw of the day so far, 70 feet, 7 1/4. That one might have been better.
Well, and you can guarantee you're going to see him at the U.S. Championships trying to make a name season. As we go back to the 10,000 meters, I'll follow up on Lara's point on Abdi Nur. What's amazing is he did not run super fast times in high school. He wasn't a Foot Locker cross country guy. He only went 4:18 in the mile in high school, but he has just absolutely exploded. Mike Smith took a little bit of a chance on him, getting him up to NAU. And what's interesting, when you talk about these NAU runners to other coaches around the country, they say you got to worry about anybody who gets a chance to live up at altitude and train there.
It was not an improvement for Piperi on that final throw, but he is the NCAA champion with his 70-foot, 7 1/4 throw in the very first round. All right, we're coming around to the bell here pretty soon, and it is going to get just shifted gears, but Jacobs covered the move. Remember, he lives and trains in Flagstaff, Arizona. That's a whole lot higher altitude than South Bend, Indiana, but Jacobs now finds a gear of his own, and Nur has no response. Jacobs is going to win this by Mayer, then Nur, and Kyoko scores, which I thought would never happen after the breakneck pace. He went out on 55-45 last 400 for the junior from Notre Dame, taking the 10,000-meter title here in Eugene.
Fantastic. Well, that was entertaining, guys. It's just 25 laps. And Abdi Nur is not known for his finishing kicks. I figured he would make a move a little bit sooner than 2 laps to go. I'm sure he would have liked to have pushed that pace 6 or 7 laps, but they used up all that time to catch up. But Dylan Jacobs just was not an extremely fast pace, and it just benefited the youngster from Notre Dame.
Dylan Jacobs has fantastic range. He was the ACC indoor 3,000-meter champion. Outdoors won the 5K. He'd run 28:01 earlier this season for 10,000. So he was able to capitalize and put himself in incredible position. What a competitor. He's expected to come back in the 5,000 meters. So what a way to go into it. He just perfectly executed that race plan, was able to dig in, find that next gear. Now running over